Welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. How are you going? We are going really well because we are addressing some very, very important issues. First of all, what is God? And equally as important, what isn't God? Thumbs up. The idea of God, that is the most common one in our society, in our culture, and among the Abrahamic religions. They're called that because they share a root. There was a dude named Abraham who apparently was told to kill his son because God said so. And he was so willing to murder human beings, even ones he was close to, that his descendants became the tribe of Abraham that was picked as loyal followers of religion or of God. Now, not really God, it's made up, but that's the story. These are the sort of people. And by the way, that means that the underlying analogy is what we're working with. It's how we think, but it's also how reality unfolds through analogy or likeness. Whatever is the first cause of reality creates something like it, but not the same. So sameness and difference, the principle of likeness. So the analogy behind the Abrahamic religions is, as Abraham was instructed to murder somebody he cared about, so too the followers of Abraham, the Jews, Christians, and Muslims, are instructed to murder if they are told by their authority figure that God wants them to. So that's the one that we grow up with. And inherent within that idea of God is a warring God. Now, he's also a historical force. It's a historical force, therefore. So we've been learning about God as the understanding the first cause axiom or principle of reality, how that unfolds into its the model of reality. The model is knowable with the cognitive function that humans can awaken called ousia, the capacity of mind to turn away from our physical senses and know itself as pure intelligence. The inherent intelligibility, the fact that you can understand it is just, understand it is beautiful, understand all of the primary building blocks of thought, perception, experience, and understanding. And reality, whole, part, same, different, all of these things. Well, we mentioned same and different and like and unlike already today. They're all, where do they come from? They're all inherent within intelligence itself, which can be experienced as a oneness. So, them be the gods. We can personify those principles as gods. And for them to have a selfhood, the selfhood or the energy and life of beauty, justice, with its power to function as it does and towards itself, towards others, and in the physical world, there has to be a primary principle of, well, if there's beauty itself, justice itself, whole itself, goodness itself, there is something that's being used for all of these aspects of reality, self. And that's our goal, to know the self. To know the reach of the self, and the highest knowing of the self is our goal, which is called by the Greeks knowing thyself. Nothing more important than knowing the full reach of the self. And it reaches all the way back to the first cause, therefore, God. So any other God contains qualities, like the Abrahamic God judges things, picks a team, blesses the people that their followers like, curses the ones they don't like. So these are all qualities. So in other words, there is a higher principle necessary for there to be qualities that exist. So the idea of self is higher than any other idea of God possible. And that's what we're after. So if that's how we understand God, and of course this is verifiable, it's not just necessary reasoning through words, it's also verifiable in experience. That's our standard for truth, reason and experience, or logos and ousia. Well, by the way, that's also what makes us different from cabbages and caterpillars and cows. We have the capacity for ousia, self-reflection, logos, to do so with language and understanding, and that's what we make use of here with philosophy. In fact, the skill of doing that well is the dialectic, and that's what we've been learning as our purpose as human beings. So, self-reflection, ousia, and we just mentioned, yeah, you can, well, ousia itself, or the highest expression of ousia, is mind knowing itself completely. So, if that is if that's the highest idea of God, the self, the one self, or the good self, and the idea of God, so personification or a mythology to personify, or analogy, use metaphor to talk about the aspects of intelligence, the Abrahamic God is very different. It's a historical force that has a chosen people and becomes its slave. So if those chosen people don't like a different group, like the Jews don't like the Palestinians, then God says you can kill them. If you bless the Jews, the Americans bless the genocidal state of Israel, who claim to speak for the Jews, then God will also bless them. Now, it's not just the same for not just for Jews; it's every religion, every one of these mainstream religions that we have. And the highest idea of that God is that you are in charge. Whoever starts that religion says we get to be in charge. That's what God wants. Okay, so a very common idea of God. Now, what we can also recognize is that idea of God can be understood within the map of all possible ideas of God, all possible ideas of reality, all possible ideas of self. And we have a map that we've been learning that has 10 of them. This is the 7th. It is the most common, but it's also the most dangerous, because its idea of God is something that has to exist at war with the devil, or evil, or the evil one, Satan. So the nature of reality also becomes an eternal conflict between good and evil. That means when you do a bad thing, you're an evil person, you're a sinner. In some way, you should feel bad about yourself. Therefore, justification for punishment. Your problem isn't that you haven't yet understood something, or you've got a block to your understanding we call ignorance, and therefore problems are solved by addressing the cause of the problem, either your lack of understanding or your false belief that blocks you. No. That would be too easy and fun and rational and sane. Actually, problems are because you've got the devil in your heart. There's something wrong with you. And therefore, you solve problems by, well, you can't help the devil learn. He only wants bad things, and learning is a good thing. So all you can do is inflict punishment. So all of the systems of oppression in our world have to justify violence against the many by the few. Whether it's the police inflicting violence against the working class to maintain the authority of the Epstein billionaire class, whether it's the priest telling the clergy they have to give money or else they go to hell, whether it's the politicians saying you have to give up all your rights, otherwise terrorism will get you, or if it's the capitalists saying we need capitalism because you're all bad people, you're all innately selfish, therefore all we can do is use that selfish instinct and create an economic system where everyone tries to scam everyone else, and that's the only thing we can do because you're all a bunch of criminals. All of these systems of oppression have to begin by villainizing those that they are oppressing, because that justifies punishment. You're an innate criminal, we need to punish you with prison and fines. You're innately, you're not on your grind set hard enough, so we can enslave you. You're innately a bad race, so we can enslave you. You're innately not chosen by God, so we can genocide you. It's always the same game. What you don't like, you villainize, which is some expression of evil, some innate badness that is archetypal and transcendent of the physical world, evil or the devil. And therefore, devil doesn't want to learn. And if you're the devil, all we can do is abuse you, torture you, whether it be on Epstein Island, in prison cells, in war, through capitalism, all of these systems of oppression, through the psychological abuse of teaching that hell is a real place within religion to get children to obey whatever sick authority figure wants to enslave the children or abuse the children. Always the same game. Seventh hypothesis. It's defined as an opposition to the third, which is, of course, logos, understanding. So we want to use understanding to see if that kind of God, a God that is at war with the innate badness of different people or within your own soul, can possibly exist. Also, can Satan exist? Is it possible, rationally speaking, in principle, for there to be a Satan? The third dialectic we have on the table is, can the conflict exist? These people that we speak about, the Abrahamic religions and those who have variations of the seventh hypothesis, the capitalist conservatives and the clergy that are in charge of our current society, that are sweeping death and destruction across the land, they are seeking Armageddon. They want to end our species so Jesus comes back, or to finally end that conflict between God and Satan, good and evil. Now, can that actually be a thing? Is it possible that there can be a war between the forces of heaven and earth, or Hades, or hell? So that's the third dialectic. So we've got, can the Abrahamic God exist? The God that's a warring God? Not what we have understood God to be. A metaphor or personification of the highest principles that we all participate in, that we can understand through reason. Third hypothesis. Direct experience. Second and first hypothesis. Either of mind or self. No. A warring God. Can that exist? 2. Can Satan or the devil exist? 3. Can the war between them exist, and therefore is Armageddon a real thing? Can there possibly be a war between the two that will finally put an end to bad things in the world? And there's a hidden fourth dialectic that the book has shared with us. For those of us who have been reading carefully and who are actually understanding the true nature of God or reality or the self, and actually understanding the true cause of human problems, not the devil and evil and sin and Satan and punishment, for those people who are interested in wisdom, who love understanding, motivated by wisdom and understanding, and seek above all truth, for those people, is there a fourth dialectic that we can nail down? And then, what does Jesus have to say? That's what we're doing today. Let's have a look. All right, let's jump in. So let's read it. Where's the text? Oops. Let's read. So there's 4 dialectics that we are examining. Hope my audio is sounding good. So, and as we do that, we're also learning about what it's like to be a dialectician. So if our purpose is to practice these dialectics for ourselves and make them our own, and use them so that we become more like a dialectician, using that principle of likeness, because it seems that the greatest human beings who have fulfilled their purpose on the planet, like Socrates and our dream maker, are masters of the dialectic. It is the skill and art of what makes us evolve. Ousia, our capacity for self-reflection on the highest ideas. So it's a contemplation of the intelligible. We're not reflecting on gossip. Who got cancelled today? By the way, those fascists in charge, the capitalists, clergy, and conservatives, they often feed the many gossip. Hey, look at this guy. He said a bad thing. Look at that person. They're trans. Oh, let's gossip about them. So you don't actually address the injustice we're doing, the violence and oppression we're inflicting on you, and the destruction of your species and your planet caused by the systemic violence of, again, capitalism, religion, and conservatism. Do gossip instead, is what they say, but we are too smart for that. Why did I talk about that? Oh yes, we're not contemplating on that sort of thing, physical things. Shapes and colors, your CV, your story about yourself or other people. We're not doing gossip. We're contemplating on the highest possible ideas. And when we use the idea, we mean eidos, the Greek idea, not a concept. Not a concept. It's not an abstraction. It's more real than the physical world because it's has scope over the physical world. We can see many beautiful things. Beauty has to exist before as a substantive for it to exist in our physical world as an adjective. So we're going to where all of these ideas exist. So we're contemplating the intelligible or the realm of gods, because that's the myth, the personification. So we're using the dialectic to contemplate the highest ideas rationally, making use of the logos. So Socrates has called it in the text the power of the logos. In fact, let's read it first. Oh, here we go. It's right on the board. There we go. Look at this. Okay, so beauty or the intelligible has to exist. You could call that Aphrodite. That's the intelligible. Those who catch a glimpse, who've had a spiritual or near-death or a experience or a OBE experience or a yoga experience or a drug experience or a dream experience or a sporting experience where you've caught a glimpse of a non-physical dimension of reality, that's awakening ousia as the sense. Those who catch a glimpse want to have a more full and complete vision of her. That makes you a lover of wisdom. Because wisdom is that experience plus the understanding. And you need understanding to get back there, remain there, remove all of the blocks that prevent you from remaining there and getting back there, but also making sense and integrating that experience. So in other words, it's experience and understanding. Ousia and logos. That's the two things that we have that make us different than cows and caterpillars. So, Aphrodite is first. You have to accept that it exists. As an axiom or as a principle, you might not be able to verify it yet, but if you don't think the One Piece exists, you can't join Luffy's crew and become a Straw Hat pirate and go on an adventure. If you don't accept the axiom that if you add two things together, the result will be greater than any one of the individual parts, then you can't do math. You can't play. There are many axioms we have to take for granted to play at the beginning. But of course, it's verifiable. That's what makes philosophy different from modern science. They're only theories. We get to confirm it in experience. That confirmation is called Aphrodite. When you've had a glimpse, you fall in love and you can become a philosopher, wanting to get back there. In order to get back there, you have to learn the understanding. That's why we read these books. The reading of these books, Apollo. Because these books reflect the logos, or the harmony, the inherent intelligibility of that experience, the inherent parts connecting together in an understandable way that brings harmony. Those that are attracted to harmony pick up Apollo, read the sorts of things we read here to learn about the Logos, to seek truth. We are truth seekers. To reach intellectual truth and the light that luminosity resides there. And the light that luminously resides there. In this game, you ultimately realize that the art and skill that you can practice and use at all times, ideally, is called the dialectic. That's Hermes. So those are the three anagogic or upward moving gods: Apollo, Aphrodite, and Hermes. Hermes is the supplier of philosophy and elevates those souls akin. What's that word? Likeness. The principle or axiom of likeness. Those that become like Hermes are elevated. What's Hermes? The dialectic. Therefore, those who learn and practice as much as possible to become dialecticians are elevated. Therefore, the spiritual process, the spiritual method is the dialectic. And that's what we've been discovering time and time again in this book. And a spammer already.
It's a scam.
It's a scam.
Further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
Your AI
That's
slop.
weird that you think that.
And that's weird that they do that.
Slop.
It's crap. It's slop. Already, very quick. Today. So, Hermes elevates the soul through that principle or axiom of likeness. And unless you include the dialectic in your reading and study, which is the power of the Logos. There we have Ousia and Logos, our two capacities that make us evolved. The power of the Logos is the dialectic. Awakening the eye of Ousia, the eye of the soul. Our sixth sense. Get Shyamalan Malakamalan on the phone, because I think we've discovered the real sixth sense.
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
We can also tell M. Night Shyamalan to love sluts, I suppose.
Honestly, on the real, I say stuff like that because I'm cool.
Okay. If you're cool, then we are cool too. So, the dialectic is the power of the Logos, and unless you include that in your study, you will utterly fail to achieve passage from the brilliant light of being, which is the second hypothesis, or Ousia, or mind knowing itself, which is outside of the physical world, but is the cause of the physical world, or the model of the physical world as well, to its cause, the good itself. Second to the first. Therefore, using our map that we have been learning, which I haven't opened yet. I'm not looking at it yet. It takes a while to load up because there's lots of notes on it. The movement of our soul through mind to the good itself. Therefore, says Socrates, in his philosophical journey and in ours, we pay heed to Aphrodite, Apollo, and Hermes. So, that's the understanding of the gods and the god, and our method through the dialectic, which is rational. But there are some people who are afraid of those three things. They're afraid of learning and understanding. They're afraid of mind, and they're afraid of the freedom of self. That fear we learn as part of our family upbringing, because all human beings, whether we like it or not, grow up in a belief-based clan tribe. Your parents have beliefs about self and reality. As far as I'm aware, they ain't Platonic philosophers. They ain't Socrates. But even Socrates will likely respond in a way that he doesn't even know he's responding to pass on a pathologos belief to his kids. The difference is, can you create a family environment where you recognize that, you look for those pathologos beliefs, and you create a culture of dialectical reflection? That's how we overcome our problems. So we all get from childhood a pathologos fear of 3-2-1, understanding, dialectic, mind, and self. That causes an allegiance, a feeling that we need, fourth hypothesis, belief. So it's that fear of 3-2-1 that gives our loyalty to 4, our fear of understanding, mind, and self, creating a feeling that we need, our beliefs from our tribe and our clan member identity, clan identity membership. There we go. I got there.
Where's the joy? Where's the... No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into new boundaries.
We're crossing into new boundaries.
Jesus Christ, Emma, this is not Opie and Anthony or whatever the hell.
Why are you fighting with Emma?
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
Cut it out, you two. And I distract myself with my soundboard nonsense. Right, so it's our allegiance to the fourth hypothesis, belief that is the cause of human problems. What's fascinating about that is you end up with a false image of yourself. So you end up with a surrogate, a pretender on the throne where our one self should be, or good self should be. As we've been reading, you spend your life identifying with that. Your drama plays out so we got that image of the self that becomes our mask and our identity. The longer we get, you might notice old people getting more entrenched in their problems to the point where you can even see it written in the wrinkles in their faces. And you get the older generation, as people get older, they become more conservative. No. As people get older, they become more entrenched in their pathologos image of themselves because that's what their life has been. Because we're already dialecticians. We are just doing a fake dialectic. Because that self has an associated state of mind. So there's our fear of the real state of mind of the second hypothesis, and its surrogate, the states of mind that are acceptable within the family tribe, and then political, religious tribe, whatever, workplace. And from that state of mind, there's a sort of functioning, not dialectic, but interpretation. That's the functioning of belief and image thinking. You heard people say, hey, he just uses shapes and colors. That's it. To project the shapes and colors from our fourth hypothesis beliefs and have blind spots towards anything that challenges those beliefs. So as we are learning to read in a new kind of a way, we are practicing reading without interpretation. So we are doing a spiritual method or a philosophical method by learning to read, by recognizing where we are interpreting, because that gives us what happened to my board? It's still loading. So our fear of the first hypothesis, freedom of self, second hypothesis, ideal states of mind, peak states of mind, and third hypothesis, understanding and dialectic, we're still doing it anyway. We just take a false image of the self and its associated negative states of mind and its associated interpretive functionings and then from that functioning or that role, that ends in a conclusion. That conclusion, we end up, well, I guess I was right about myself the whole time. If I think so, let's see it on the board. Oops. There we go. So the map, first, second, third, fourth, fifth hypothesis, and any false belief that is in opposition to any of them. So here's our ignorance and belief and image thinking, fourth and fifth. We end up with a fear of the first hypothesis self, second hypothesis peak state of mind, and third hypothesis understanding. We end up with our fourth hypothesis false belief about the self. Instead of that, that's our self-image. negative states of mind instead of the ideal one, and our belief-based interpretation instead of understanding and dialectic. Our ideal, therefore, is to master this dialectic as we are doing, which you can apply to surface your false beliefs and interpretations, address those negative states of mind, and trace those states of mind back through your past to where you learnt without putting it in words, so you don't even know you have it, you just think it's you, that false image of yourself. That's called midwifery. That purifies the negative triad or the pathologos triad. And we can recognize it by saying, hey, hang on a second. I have failures or blocks. That's how I conclude. That's my conclusion. This is the dialectic, which means in the divisions in my life, in whatever activity I was doing that caused that failure, in my relationship, in my dreams, in my tangents, in my fantasies, in my daydreams, so the self and mind is communicating to us in every possible way. So it's up to you how quickly you want to move towards removing your sadness and blocks and reaching your happiness. There's our role, where we function in that role, and our divisions. But we can recognize, hang on a second, our state of mind, or how we demonstrate in our state of mind, is a common feature in those divisions that lead to those failures. Therefore, we can trace that state of mind. Hey, does that have a history? Did you feel that way yesterday, last week, when you started school? How far back can you go? Can you go to your house when you were young? Because we can recognize that there is a definition of the self that is the cause of those states of mind, that is the cause of those roles or functioning within those divisions. That's the cause of your failures. So you can recognize your whole life has been a dialectic, because definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion is the dialectic. So you are a master meditator, because that's the dialectic is meditation. That's the archetype. You've just been meditating on the wrong thing. So it's the first cause. This false image of ourselves is the first cause, but also when we reach our failures, unless you have awoken to the purpose of reality, to that this is what's happening and your job is to learn the actual functioning, that's ideal, the dialectic, unless you learn that to use the self logos, the power of the logos as we just read, to address your problems, unless you're that sort of a person, aware of philosophical midwifery, dialectic, and dream analysis, you will reach that failure and go, well, I guess I really do suck. In other words, you confirm that false image that started. A self-fulfilling prophecy, we can call that. Or self-sabotage, you could call that. Which means that the image of the self started the whole thing and also is the end. All of your life's activity ends with you saying, well, I guess I was this image to begin with. So we call that the first and final cause. Which means that the cause of human problems isn't because we're broken or evil or a sinner or a heathen or a goyim or an infidel or an animal or a cockroach, or all of these words that seventh hypothesis believers use to make sense of problems, because they, again, fear actual understanding, so they need some way of making sense of problems. It's not that. It's not that we're evil or bad. We're actually very good. We just have a pretender on the throne. So our job, therefore, or how we solve problems, is to recognize our fourth hypothesis belief, which causes our fifth hypothesis image thinking that we project in our dramas, is called ignorance, and is the cause of human problems. All of them. All human problems follows this pattern. Therefore, our purpose is to, even though we might fear it, not everyone, some people love understanding. They are the special ones, but everyone can learn it. Special in that it's often rare to find people who love understanding, given that everyone gets a fear of understanding to some level. But to learn understanding by reading the books that we read, which can then recognize this pattern, trace that state of mind back to the origin scene, and use that dialectic to purify the first cause or the cause of our problems. When these pretenders are off the throne, we are then free to engage with continue that dialectical activity to find what is our true functioning or division, what is our peak state of mind or demonstration. Which will lead to our not failures, but success in mastering with excellence whatever it is that we are seeking to master. That is, so long as it's an intelligible work, like music or the books that we read. And what we are discovering is, if you apply that third hypothesis dialectic to your second hypothesis peak experience, you can realize that there must be a principle or axiom or first cause, not the false image of the self, but the one self or the good self, or the self logos. So those are the four terms that we've got so far on the table. The one self, that's the source of the oneness, so the oneness of our peak experience. The good self, the primary axiom of good, which is the cause of goodness as our peak experience. The true self, giving rise to truth, and of course its reflection, distorted reflection in our problems, what's false, ignorance. But what we're also discovering is the method of reaching there is through the power of the logos, meaning this whole unfolding that happens in our individual life and soul, our life drama, reflects the unfolding of reality itself. Just as in our individual lives, drama, dreams, fantasies, tangents, there is an unfolding from an inherent self that we're not aware of. Doesn't have any qualities. We didn't put it into words when we were young. Into our states of mind, into our activities or division, leading to our successes or failure. So too, the first hypothesis unfolds, casts a shadow of itself due to its perfect good quality. Well, it is good, so it's not a quality. That's the second hypothesis, the paradigm of reality. And it's that self and mind that functions through the dialectic to create each moment of our physical world, and to communicate to us in every moment from the gap between each moments in our thoughts, tangents, dreams, but especially our dreams. So the process we're going through in our soul's development reflects reality itself. As above, so below. That's an axiom of likeness. So, with all that in our back pocket, let's see that unfold in this dialectic. So, let's see once again what we're doing on the map. Here's the map again. So what we just said about the one or the good, the one, the true self, which we can personify as God, unfolding into mind or being or ousia, which we could call the gods. The parts, the logos inherent in ousia, we can call the gods. Creating its copy, the physical world, where we find ourselves on the hero's journey to reach the true first cause. Of those divisions between self, mind, and the physical world. And within each, there's the whole and part, or model and activity, or logos and ousia. We have the first hypothesis, self. In the realm of mind, we have the model and copy, ousia and logos, second and third, knowing and understanding. We have the two together we call wisdom. We have its shadow in the physical world, pseudo-ousia, pseudo-logos, belief and image thinking, the fourth and the fifth. So what we are reading now is Socrates functioning as a third hypothesis, our ideal functioning, our purpose, the meaning of life, the art we're here to master as human beings. He's doing that with reference to the model of what's true and good and what are the gods, to examine, to help Jesus reflect on his fourth hypothesis, beliefs about the gods that cause his, model and activity causes the activity of his fifth hypothesis, image thinking. So while we are supposed to be making use of each of these by recognizing our own problems or images, getting us on that chair, to examine the false beliefs. So here we are wondering about our beliefs, talking with a third hypothesis dialectician who is himself thinking about or contemplating as the model, the second hypothesis, nature of reality, beauty and justice, so that we can ultimately know the self by freeing our pathologos self and using that freedom to examine the self. That's why dreams are so important. Dreams give you our problems that we can represent, that we causing our problems and our negative states of mind and dreams. But dreams can also give you high states. So you can participate in both. That's why dreams would be therefore the most important, highest function a human being can do, expressing our intended activity or purpose, the dialectic as a dialectician. So while these are the actual things, when we're stuck in a fourth hypothesis belief, we are in opposition to any one of those stages. Therefore, we can represent, just as this is the unfolding of the self-logos from the first, as we just mentioned, there is equally an unfolding from the 10th hypothesis, opposition to the self-logos. That's our pathologos. That's our false image, the mask that we mentioned. Therefore, we can understand the four classes of pathologos based on which one of these levels of reality are you in opposition to. If you oppose even them being images, there aren't even images. The lowest on the list, the lowest aspect, nihilism. There aren't any meaningful activities, there aren't any parts in the world. It's all the Matrix. Nihilists, doomers, black-pilled. The most lonely and sad. And we shed a tear for them.
Hey, you can't say that to her. You show her some respect.
Who?
That's weird that you think that.
That is weird. So, those who are okay with parts in the physical world, but don't think there's any meaningful wholes, you look at a painting and you see a meaningful whole that's beautiful, inspiring. No, they come along and say, "You idiot! There's no meaningful holes. That's just a $10 worth of paint on a $5 canvas." Reductionist, reducing it to the parts, or materialist. There's no meaningful things such as beauty that would transcend the physical world. There's just physical parts. We're just billiard balls in space. So reductionism or materialism, the 8th hypothesis, is a worldview. So these are all of the possible worldviews anyone can have, in principle. Any species, any intelligent species who have evolved to the capacity for reflection on reality or self, these are the options. Any race, any religion, any culture, any epoch in history is going to be one of these 10. Pretty neat. Meaning the next big cult, the next MAGA that starts, we go, oh, that's easy. That's a 7th hypothesis. worldview. Put together as a fourth hypothesis belief group that will therefore function in opposition to the good. Oh, what do you know? We could have predicted MAGA right before it happened. Same too with all of the Abrahamic religions. All we need is the map. So, nihilism, materialism, or reductionism. The seventh hypothesis is what we're looking at. We're okay with there being a mind or forces, but the forces are not the logos, not a hierarchical unfolding of providence, intelligence, and care from the self and the mind to us at every moment. So every problem. Oh, by the way, the eighth hypothesis, people are opposed to problems as well as beauty or excellence. You can't solve problems. Democrats don't solve problems. Who knows why fascists are doing fascism? But shouldn't we understand? Shouldn't every doctor has to understand the healthy body? Every mechanic has to understand the healthy or ideal engine. Shouldn't a politician understand the healthy or ideal soul? Nope. Shut up. Ooh, gossip. Look at that, it's a gay person. Oh, look at that, it's Tom Cruise. He's doing something weird. Eighth, opposition to there being beauty or an ideal in the physical world and problems that are solvable. So seventh hypothesis, well, we do accept there are principles of mind. We're okay with mind, but it's in opposition to the truth, the logos. So providence, goodness, understanding, development, the meaning of life, our purpose as human beings, no to all of that.
You actually are too stupid to interact with the rest of the world. You should literally be in a labor camp for the rest of your life. You should be in the mines for the rest of your life. You should lose the right to vote because you're such a fucking idiot.
That's seventh. That's what we say to those seventh people, right?
That's anti-feminist in some way.
In some way, maybe it is.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Oh, you've changed your mind. I'm glad. That's what we're talking about. Therefore, there's no hierarchical unfoldment meant through the axiom or principle of likeness. It's just two equal and opposite forces. One is the good guys, and they wear the cowboy hats. One is the bad guys. They wear the Indian feathers. And the whole world is just a battleground between Jesus and the devil, God and Satan. The most common belief of our current age. Also, the one underlying all of the major religions, the Abrahamic religions. Of those who have yet to wake up to our purpose to master the dialectic and participate in midwifery to remove problems, the best problem you could have would be the sixth. You're okay with there being meaningful activities in the physical world. You're okay with there being possibilities of meaningful wholes or activities. You're not saying I'm not stuck there like a believer, like a religious person. The greatest thing you can do is get together in a group and chant Kumbaya Jesus. But you can have meaningful activities with people. So you're not in the eighth, not in the ninth. You're not opposed to reason, understanding, empathy, care, intelligence, cause and effect, principles. So you're not in the seventh. Which means that you might really enjoy understanding. You might see the benefit of addressing causes, principles, preconditions for problems, solving them. You might have a good head and a good heart. Sixth hypothesis. So what are you in opposition to? The ideal that causes understanding exists as a living, eternal entity that is intelligence itself. So these sixth hypothesis people often become isms. They try and help the world, but they think, well, the way we can bring about a whole using rational understanding is to create socialism or Marxism, or if you're stupid and cruel, Nazism or whatever. The Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse has a certain way of thinking, a certain way of acting. He won't punch Goofy, but he's not real. Therefore, to those, the best of all of the people who have yet to, how do I have less feelings and emotions? Well, the question is, it sounds like you have negative emotions. You want good ones. Insight. Providence. Why can't I be a blob of honeydew on a leaf or a bee? Oh, because you've done enough work in your previous reincarnations to have evolved into a human being which has the capacity for self-reflection and language, which are the tools needed to address the false images of yourself that are the cause of your problems in this lifetime and between lifetimes. So you can address those negative feelings that you have, because all of those negative feelings, as we've been saying, all those negative feeling states or demonstrations that put you into a negative role that you don't like when you're feeling bad about yourself, you can only do bad things kind of thing, that lead to your failures. Those negative states of mind, you can use ousia and logos in the skill that you have to learn, is what we do here, the dialectic, to recognize that each of those negative states of mind has a source, an definition of yourself that causes your states of mind that you are in when you play the different roles in your life that end in your repeating cycles of problems. Not only have you done the work to get to the capacity to solve the problems, to escape the chains of suffering, but also escape the prison of reincarnation. So you can reincarnate into higher, more real levels of reality where you don't have to go through the ignorance and the negative states of mind because you've done your job. Now we can even go one step further. How on earth can you recognize that every negative state of mind or problem is a message to help your soul's development, giving you everything you need to solve the false image of yourself that prevented your higher spiritual movement between lifetimes, if no one tells you about this? In other words, you must have done very well to pick a lifetime where you have encountered a philosopher. Not everyone gets that. So I wouldn't be lamenting. The question is, do you have or do you desire to cultivate the courage and character to listen? Or you spend your life further entrenching yourself in that false image mask, causing those negative states of mind that never change, living a life of repeating problems, further entrenching yourself in the problem you were here to solve, causing a worse kind of incarnation in the future. You will die poorly. Says the book, says Socrates, that we are also learning to understand. I hope I answered your question. By the way, that question, some say, is the only question. If our problems that we saw has a causal chain from the self states of mind to functioning or role to our conclusions, either success or failure, if that puts us on a script or the train tracks of fate, giving us an NPC script that we play out, sapping all our spiritual and psychic energy like a zombie virus, causing us to actively, savagely fight against our own interest and goodness, like a savage, and even fight against people who might speak the truth to us if it threatens our script. Also, it's primitive because it's a trait that we picked up because of the unique conditions of our evolution as human beings from caveman times. So if our whole life has been an NPC script with a zombie virus causing our savage activity in a primitive way, when you do encounter a philosopher or a dialectician who can lay it out for you, whether he has colorful pictures on the board or whether he is Socrates who encountered his teacher Parmenides, if you're on a script, all of the other answers to questions have been scripted. Therefore, the question, do you wish to escape that script, what's sometimes called the call to adventure for the hero's journey, some say is the only real question, or the first real question that you can answer. Takes courage, takes character, but courage and character are not something you have to have first. It's something you practice by answering that question in what you know is the right way. If one leads to a repeating cycle of injustice inflicted upon yourself, your relationships, your children, or if you have power over others, just like everyone else in the world, from Hitler to Gandhi, inflicting their problems on others, causing your own suffering in your lifetime and a negative reincarnation. Injustice, and the good answer to the question leads to a freedom from your injustice, not by recognizing that you're a sinner and asking for forgiveness, but recognizing that the cause of your injustice is ignorance or your false images and beliefs that you are here to address. By using the dialectic of philosophical midwifery to free that ignorance that causes the injustice, removing your injustice and creating the conditions or freedom to reach justice. If those are the two options, injustice or justice, courage is practicing answering it in the way that you know is right every moment. The virtues of temperance, keeping your cool while you follow the logos. Courage, seeking to follow the logos even though your beliefs and feelings tell you otherwise. Wisdom, the reading that we do here to learn the language so you can follow the logos. Justice, answering yes to that question in every moment so you have a single function that you're always focused on. The four virtues are not something you need to begin. They're something you practice at every moment. You don't have to be good enough. You just have to answer the right way. Every moment is an opportunity to practice the virtues. The virtues are things you practice or put into your soul. Socrates in the Republic says it's like training. They don't exist within your soul. You train them in, you practice them. But there is a fifth virtue that all of those four lead to, which is interesting because we've recognized the archetypal map of reality has 5 levels. There are the 4 kinds of pathologos leading to the pathologos itself. There are the 4 stages of our learning through the self-logos and dialectic leading to our goal of knowing the self. There are 4 kinds of interpretation leading to our goal. The first interpretation, which is non-interpretation, accepting the truth and sacrificing what's false. So this method of 4 stages, like the dialectic, definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion, leading to a mysterious 5th term, which is our first and final cause, we can even see in the virtues. which is neat because we are after that. We want to know, what is it like? We've got these 4 cognitive functions, the 2 of ignorance in the physical world, the 2 of wisdom in the world of being or mind or intelligence. But we want to use our understanding to free that ignorance or the source of human problems, not evil, which involves addressing all of these pathologos, because these are different states of mind you can move in and out of. So using our 3rd hypothesis, dialectic, to remove our beliefs that cause our 5th hypothesis, image thinking, which opens us up to an experience of knowing, 2nd hypothesis, but then to use the dialectic on that peak experience of mind that we are now free to have, to realize it too must have a cause. That's how we move through to the final cause, which was the first cause of everything. Everything is of the self, unfolding through the self logos, so that we can return through the self logos to recognize the self. That's our goal, to know the self, the first hypothesis. And as Socrates just, as we read from Socrates, utterly, UTTER, like a cow that trips over, we utterly fail if we do not include that 3rd hypothesis, meaning of life, the dialectic, in our work. It's the power of logos, the power of our ability to think, reason, use language, talk with our friends. If we don't have the dialectic or Hermes, we won't be able to make the passage through the brilliant light of being, 2nd hypothesis, to the good itself. So I hope I gave you something to think about. So, kind of ironic that you must have been doing a lot of good work to not only reincarnate with the ability to learn the dialectic, self-reflection language, but have encountered a dialectician to lay it all out for you, giving you the opportunity to answer in a way that perfects your courage and character. So maybe you're a blob of honeydew on a leaf or a bee in a previous life, but you did it very, very well. And now you have the opportunity to go even higher. Now, of course, that's for you to verify for yourself. Even the steps of reasoning that I went through, you have to nail them down. You have to make them a dialectic, because your job is to be a dialectician. Think this way. Practice it. See if it works. If it doesn't work, throw it out. Give it a shot. That's the axiom. You have to be open to its possibility to play the game. That's truth. Verifying through understanding, reasoned reflection, the dialectic, and confirming it in your own experience. No one will convince you of those until you see it for yourself. Those things we talked about. And that's what we're doing here. We could even ask questions about your state of mind to see which of these 4 pathologos classes are you in. I don't want to have feelings and emotions. Why? It doesn't seem like it's because you think they're evil, so you're not the 7th hypothesis, like Jesus is in currently in the book. Maybe you're just lonely and depressed because you think there's no meaning to your emotions. Maybe you're in the 9th. Maybe you think there's no way out of your problems because you're in the 8th. You don't think your problems are understandable and solvable. Or maybe you're open to understanding the source of your problems, but you don't think it's something you can verify in direct experience of pure intelligence. You don't think it's really going to move you. in a lasting way. Maybe because everyone else that you went to for help gave you a positive talk. And you were open to it, you understood how it might work, but it didn't last. It wasn't eternal and real, or the second hypothesis. So maybe you're in the sixth. By identifying the state of mind we're in when we're in a negative state of mind, using the map of the self-logos, you are practicing the dialectic. You are doing justice. By justice, we mean your intended excellence or purpose. And it's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
It's right here.
It makes sense. I think it's so awesome.
It is awesome.
Everybody should love sluts. I love sluts.
Is that a nice thing to say, Emma?
Freaks.
Don't call her a freak.
How can you be this stupid?
Please end kink shaming on your show.
Don't argue, soundboard. Right, so that's where we're at. So, we are currently practicing the dialectic, doing our intended function, becoming like Socrates by nailing down this dialectic ourselves, addressing the most common and the most dangerous kind of pathologos, the seventh.
That's anti-feminist in some way.
No, it's not, Emma.
Well, that's not true because I don't think so.
Hey,
It makes sense.
that's right, it do make sense. All right, so that's where we are. I hope that was helpful for you, Sus. Don't go back to B. Don't go back to B. Don't go back to B. There's some people say go back to monkey when there are some people, well, it's a meme, it's a common thing. People who recognize that the nature of our injustice, seventh hypothesis, cruelty and inhumanity towards ourselves and our environment only happens within human beings. No animals treats themselves this way, tortures each other this way, exploits each other this way. No other species has capitalism, conservatism, and religion. Systems of belief that oppose understanding, that justify violence, oppression, and sadism. So they say, go back to monkey. Because they recognize you need a certain level of ousia and logos to do belief and image thinking, ignorance, racism, sexism, violence, punishment. That monkeys don't have. And that's true. No other species is as irrational and inhumane as we are. It's a double-edged sword. So you want to return to B, and I'm saying, well, maybe the answer isn't returning to B or returning to monkey. But mastering that skill. It's like we've got this sports car of our soul. And we're always driving it. And we're just crashing into everything because it's a ridiculously fast, overpowered sports car. But no one on our planet has stopped to say, maybe we should learn to drive the car. Well, not no one, the author of this book, and Socrates. So there's two at least. Apart from those two, no one has asked, maybe we should learn to use the car. We have the capacity for reflection. We have the ability to make beliefs. Human injustice is when it's just to hurt immigrants because freedom and MAGA. So we pretend we're doing justice. We feel justified in inflicting horrors on other human beings, punishment on other human beings. So we do injustice in the name of justice. We do vice in the name of virtue. That's also Stoic philosophy, the most common philosophy you'll hear about on the internet. Philosophy uses the language, but removes the metaphysics. So if we have the capacity, we seek justice, we feel justified in our injustice, why not learn how to drive the car and learn what justice is? Learn what beliefs are. Learn the nature of human ignorance. Learn how to use ousia, self-reflection, and language logos. That's it. We're in this video game. We're reading the manual. We're learning we've got an A button and B button. And the dialectic is pushing them both at the same time. That gives us our special move. Watcha. Special move. Oh, you can. Like that. Sonic boom. That's us. Pressing A and B button. The sonic boom. The dialectic is the sonic boom of humanity. In a good way. Special move. Don't return to monkey or B. But a worthwhile problem to recognize, because it's true, we are inhumane. Because we have the pretenders on the throne. So, let's address the seventh. Hey, Reeve, welcome. To you we say...
I have a sickness for the thickness.
We have a sickness for your thickness, which sounds a bit goony.
Gooner.
That makes us a gooner.
Gooners.
Gooner.
Be a reasonable gooner.
But if you're here, you have to be a reasonable gooner.
Goon.
Goon. I hope you're well.
This is why I love this channel, man.
Because we have funny sound drops. Right, so this section begins. We're right at the end of the book, by the way. Oh, here we go. When a book that we're reading, by the way, Apollo, stands alone, is self-sufficient, complete, intelligible, reflects the self-logos, then you can practice reading without interpretation. So the kind of reading we've been doing on this channel, on this book, is a spiritual method. Our work doesn't need interpretation. If you are interpreting, says Jesus, you are just introducing the false beliefs that you are carrying, or your pathologos. So we're trying to read what's there in the text. Different from school where they say, what does this book mean to you? And then you can just project all the bullshit. In fact, there was a famous case a few months ago where it wasn't even just a creative writing class. It was a university paper on psychology or something. And the young woman said, just dumped all her religious beliefs. Not answering the question, not related to anything, just, I believe that gays are bad and trans are bad. It's like, this is stupid. What are you doing? You are 100% pathologos. There's no reasoning happening at all. And then she went to the right wing because they like that stuff, because that gives us gossip to distract our focus from the causes and conditions of our injustice, belief, conservatism, a rejection of understanding, Democrats, and the fact that we do not demand an understanding of the ideal of the human soul, what's needed for its development, and how we can implement that to meet all human material needs and create the conditions for us to do philosophy. In other words, gossip to distract us from the causes of the injustice perpetuated by sadists in the fourth hypothesis: capitalists, conservatives, and clergy. So that's introducing your pathologos into a work like that girl did. So she became famous right-winger, which is what the right wing does. It's disgusting and sick, and it's an abuse of that girl. She should be being helped, not said, oh, your ignorance is great. Like that swimmer who tied for 5th with a trans athlete. She went from, oh yeah, I mean, it's fine, to yes, it was the most bad thing. And she was swinging her cock around in the changing rooms and hit me in the eye, it did. Her story changes after a year of being told that she's the queen of the right wing. All of a sudden, like, oh yeah, I came fifth with this trans athlete. I guess that sucks too. It changed my life. Oh, it was so bad. It hit me in the eye. Just lying. Same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. Same thing with Charlie Kirk until, he started to wake up and ask questions. And they do what they do to people who challenge their ignorance. Carry the flame. But we are not doing that. We are doing the good thing. We're doing the just thing. So, by learning how to read without interpretation, or introducing your pathologos, your problem, into the work. So that's why we read Apollo. So, Socrates says, hang on a second. There's a problem you have to address. Your idea of God flies in the face of everything we have understood about God, as the analogy, personification, metaphor of philosophy, soul, metaphysics. Your God is a spiritual force that guides a certain chosen people through history, which is a callback to earlier in the text. Blessing those you bless. His highest idea is that your team rules. All this baby shit. Jesus said, actually, I don't think that yet. I think that my God is necessary to overcome the power of evil spawned by the evil one, Satan. So he's carrying a false idea of God. Again, the map that we have applies to everything. Of these 10 worldviews that anybody can have, that applies to how you make sense of, So let's say you're in the 8th, which is materialism. It's how you make sense of the self. The self is just brain chemistry. There is no self. It's how you make sense of God. There is no God. It's just, we're just atoms in space, billiard balls in space. It's how you make sense of self, reality, your problems. My problems are just brain chemistry, take some drugs. What's interesting is, by talking about God, you elevate it to the highest possible. So your idea of God has scope over everything. Now, you could say, well, the self has scope over everything. But if you're carrying a pathologos idea of self, then it's not. Your idea of self is going to be less. I'm less than. I'm a small bean. I'm a bad noodle. Our freedom from our pathologos and our mastery of philosophy or the dialectic is when we recognize that the self is the highest possible existing, transcending existing thing. But until we get there, we don't think self is the best. So asking what's your highest vision of God is a good way of pointing to an idea that has scope over everything. So if you think God is at war with Satan, so too with your problems, so too with your soul, so too with your relationships. You're in a problem with your relationships? Well, it's because your wife is being a bitch and you need to defeat her, win the argument. Very boomer-y. Very right-wingy. We need to pass laws to take away women's rights so I can win. Because when we're in conflict, she's being a bitch. Very right-wing. Very Nazi, fascist, conservative, MAGA, religious, same thing. Taking away women's rights because God doesn't like women speaking up. God doesn't like abortions. So it has scope over all of your ways of understanding reality and problems, or your excellence and your problems. Significant. Tell me all your thoughts on God. That's a song. So, Socrates is saying, hey, by the way, this is your idea of God. Jesus, which is a spiritual force guiding a chosen people, sounds like pathologos. The pathologos is my family is special. Those parents didn't know reality, but my mum and dad did. Their idea was about what love is was actually true. Their idea about religion was actually true. My family way of being is the right one. The weirdos up the street, or the weirdos in a different country, or the weirdos in the Middle East, or the weirdos in Germany, they're all strange and wrong. Even the parents are next door. They're not. I see the way they fight, but my parents are special. That's the Pathologos. We are a special chosen people. So religion takes our human problem and exploits it for profit and fun and profit. Exploitation. Sadism. Religion, conservatism, capitalism seeks, or conservatism and religion in particular, seek to exploit the human condition of their human problems. We're a chosen people. It's not a blame game. Everyone has it. And by the way, that's the story of Achilles. His parents, one of his parents was a god. So literally, his mum kept saying, no, we're special. You don't have to fight a war against the Trojans. You can just abandon them. Because we're special. We're a chosen team. Our family way of being is the right way. And Achilles had to recognize that this way of thinking got his best friend, Paris, killed. And he had to go through dream analysis and philosophical midwifery to address his parental figures and say, no more. To the point where he actually addressed the king of the Trojans and said, hey, listen, I have come through my philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. I have come to discover the tragedy, all the horrific things my family, clan, Pathologos belief has caused. I want to share them with you. It ended with my best friend being killed in this war, but it also ended with your dear Hector being killed in this war. And both of them, by the way, the courage, he just walked in to their encampment alone. He walked into their tent and said, I want to speak to the king. This is the great Achilles, the greatest hero, the half divine greatest warrior of the other team. Killed Hector, our greatest warrior. And here he is just wandering in to say, all I want to do is talk. That's how the war ended. They realized they both had the same kind of problem. They both paid a tragic, devastating price for their family way of being, or the Pathologos. That's how we overcome our war with each other, whether it be Athenians and Trojans, whether it be Muslims and Christians, whether it be capitalists and the regular people. Recognizing the sameness of our human condition, both the cause of our problems, Pathologos, what's needed to solve them, midwifery, and dream analysis, which is the use of the dialectic, and recognizing also that we're on the same quest to do that. That's our purpose, and use that freedom to find the real self, which is the last part of the book, by the way. So we could read the Odyssey if we have a time in our channel and we have an interest, or that's the Iliad. The Odyssey is even better because the hero has to do even better, because the hero of the Odyssey is Penelope. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but women have to reach their excellence under more difficult conditions. They have to protect themselves from not only their own ignorance, but the ignorance of men as well. They have to win the war without entering the battle. So we might, if there's an interest in the channel, we could read the Odyssey. And for the first time, we are getting a translation that's accurate. All of the right logos are in there because the translator has done work on his Pathologos interpretations, unlike any other translator of the Odyssey and the Iliad in the past. So it's a win-win for us.
It's a win-win-win.
That's right. So, no. It's not a historical force of a chosen people, Pathologos. It's necessary as a force that fights evil, which has its source, Satan. And now we have the dialectic. Well, before, Socrates clarifies that worldview. Seventh hypothesis. You think that seventh hypothesis, you're not in the physical world. You think there is a force or a god or an eternal principle, but it's not the logos. So the forces are not greater and lesser, it's equal and opposite. And the logos also there is a providential connection from the greater to the lesser, from the self and mind to the soul, from the dialectician to the person with the problem. Do we do that with problems in our society? Nope. We say, oh, you've got a problem, you are bad, evil, criminal. And we inflict punishment upon you. Retribution. When really, it should be a dialectician who is greater, providentially relating to the lesser. Seventh hypothesis. There are forces, they are equal and opposite, they do not connect in any providential way, so they are perpetually at war with each other. So we're using the map to define in principle the worldview, which we can do because we have the map. So, they are distinct, they're opposites, they're distinct, they're separate from each other, but they have the power to do and be what they do and be, so they do have being. Now that we've defined our position, let's go through the dialectic. So, first of all, to contemplate evil, ousia, or to act an evil way, logos, is to act irrationally or unintelligibly. So we've defined evil, either in what you're contemplating, ain't the second, so it's unintelligible, and your action or your activity ain't the third, so it's not rational. Yep, that's what evil is. To think about the bad or to do bad things, which is not serving your goal. Yes, to sin or miss the mark you're aiming for is to act irrationally, which is against your own spiritual goal. The good does not share its attributes with evil because they are as different as they are opposites. So again, as a dialectician, we're ignoring all of the tangent stuff and just keeping it on track. We'll take the yes. We'll ignore the other stuff. Do we share in the truth that for God to be a God, he must remain? So for God to be a God, he stays a God. That's what it means to be a God, which is to remain in a perfect state. And is not the perfect state such that goodness would be the essential mark of being a God? So remaining perpetually in a state of goodness. Defining evil, defining God. Yes, ignore the rest. Then we both say that God abides eternally in his own state, and in doing so preserves his nature. If so, would you agree that since his nature is good, he wouldn't speak any falsehoods, nor do any activities that are evil? Yes. By the way, would such a God as you believe in, the Abrahamic God, which is at war, could he do that if war is defined by the abandonment of the intelligible? So that's a dialectic. So we have just destroyed, as a JRPG, when you finish the game, you start by collecting 10 flowers, you end by defeating God. We've defeated God. That's a hilarious thing I just said. It's hilarious. Where's my laughter button? There we go.
It's not being crazy. It's called reaching a higher sense of being.
That's right. I'm reaching a higher sense of being with my jokes. I'm not crazy. So 4 steps. Let's review it one more time because we need to memorize it. We'll practice it. It's fun, but also we are becoming like Socrates ourselves. Step 1, define evil. To contemplate or act evil, which is unintelligible or irrational. And we can use the map to recognize unintelligible. Intelligibility is the second, or ousia. Rationality is the third, logos. Therefore, evil is the opposition to 2 and 3. Which is interesting because the dialectic is the power to contemplate on an idea. We're doing a dialectic on God right now. We're contemplating it. And we're doing it rationally. So we are being the opposite of evil. Godlike. So, evil, number 1. Number 2, define God. God is always, the mark of the God is he is eternally in his state, which is eternally good. Number 3, if one is eternally good, could it do or say a bad thing? Nope. Number 3, is war a bad thing? Yes. Therefore, war is an abandonment of the intelligible, which is defined as evil. So 4 is equal to 1. The abandonment of the intelligible is something we said in 3, a lie or bad action, which God cannot do. So 3 is the lying or speaking a falsehood. And that's equal to God. Therefore, using the axiom, things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. So evil war is equal to not good. God is equal to good. Okay, let's do it this way. Not evil or war is equal to good. God is equal to good. Therefore, God is also equal to the thing it's equal to. Now, this is an axiom we use in basic math. We use it in basic science. If I drop the apple at this height, it does this thing. If I drop the carrot at the same height as the apple, then the carrot will do the same thing. A basic axiom you have to take for granted. Just as we said earlier, you have to take the axiom for granted that you can solve human problems and recognize this root cause is our false beliefs or ignorance about the self. And we can therefore in principle solve problems and use that freedom to go on to know the self and reach excellence. This is an axiom. It's an inherent principle you can't prove in the physical world. You have to take it for granted to play. If you don't, you just end up depressed in the ninth hypothesis, giving up. Now, axioms we can actually verify when we reach them in a philosophical way. You can prove these things, but not at the beginning. So, there we go. 1, evil is unintelligible. 2, God is eternally good. 3, if you're eternally good, you can't do something unintelligible. 4, war is unintelligible. Therefore, God being eternally good can't do something unintelligible, therefore can't be at war because that's also evil. We've defeated Abrahamic God. Hooray. Now, it seems simple because that's the dialectic. The dialectic doesn't point to the many things in the physical world. It has scope over the many things, This is the most common false, sick belief about God and reality, and also how you solve problems and injustice and retribution and conflicts within relationships and the conflict within your soul that even Socrates said he had. I thought that my conflict was just my bad side and my good side, and there's no meaning in life because they're always at war. So it has scope over everything, but we don't look to the everything. That's what it means for, that's what the dialectic does. So it seems simple. How can, with 4 moves, we address a sick God that has motivated hundreds of thousands or even millions of people to act in cruel, unjust way, causing the pages of human history to be soaked in blood? How can we overcome that with just 4 moves and about a dozen ideas? Because that's what it means to understand. When you understand, it is simple. Now, of course, that's just the truth. The other part of the game is communicating it to humans. As we've been saying, we also have the 5 kinds of interpretations, human beings rejecting that truth, offering their own beliefs, taking a little piece, trying to keep the old beliefs and the true until ultimately they accept the truth. So there are those stages we go through. And in those stages, there are the ways human beings respond to the truth that challenges their beliefs, ignoring it, mocking it, threatening, kicking them out, exile, or killing. So we do have to address those counterattacks or interpretations from belief and those negative human, savage human functionings opposed to our benefit. But, so that's where it gets tricky. But this part isn't tricky. This part is just fun. Jordan Peterson levels of fun.
Now we're getting into extreme Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy.
I rolled a crit there. I hit the one I was aiming for. My soundboard, most of my soundboard is randomized, so I was hoping for that. We reached Jordan Peterson levels of whimsy. All right, so next one. Now that we've defeated God, can we defeat Satan? Now, we're not actually defeating God. We're not actually defeating ourselves. We're defeating this sick idea of God that's been used to justify cruelty and inhumanity and the cause of the sustained conflict within ourselves and reality and the cosmos and our species. So we're addressing the sick idea of God, making the space for us to know the truth. Let's see if we can do the same thing. Satan, as the personification of evil, would lack the ability to plan and act intelligently towards any good he desires, because, as we've defined, his actions cannot reflect what is good or intelligible. Evil is unintelligible or irrational. Could he go ahead and marshal his forces and prepare for the coming battle between good and evil if his plans were irrational and so worthless? Jesus tries to escape answering that question. So proud is Satan that he accepts moments of victory to satisfy his evil nature. Hang on a second. So you're saying he's so proud that he leaves his nature for a time and does good things for a while to serve a more evil end? Why would he do that if he knows he's going to lose anyway? Because his battle plans and actions must fail because they lack intelligibility. The depths of arrogance keep all from seeing the obvious. So these are just cliches, distracting cliches, sometimes called thought-terminating cliches. It's like a little catchphrase. God works in mysterious ways. The depths of arrogance. So this is what a religious person would say. You ask a question that shows that this thing they believe can't exist. If Satan is the personification of evil, evil means to be unintelligible or rational. War requires being rational and intelligible. Therefore, he can't participate in war. They'll say, oh, you're arrogant for asking questions. The arrogance, it's obvious that he exists. Common sense. Like the right-wingers say, it's just common sense, bro. Brown people are bad because common sense. Common sense mean my stupid ass bullshit beliefs I've never reflected on. My pathologos, my ignorance. Appealing to ignorance, common sense. Or the obvious. It's obvious to you. You're the one with the problem. The depths of arrogance keep the people that you think you know better. You're arrogant philosopher. Keeps people from seeing the obvious. We're ignoring that. We're not taking the bait as a dialectician. We're staying focused. So what are we doing? We're contemplating the intelligible. What he said was unintelligible. By taking the bait and arguing with a moron, which is his goal, by the way, these right-wingers and conservatives and religious people, they are trying to tank the conversation because
People don't logic their way into stupid positions. They stupid their way into positions.
they stupided their way into their position. It wasn't a rational position to begin with. Faith means to accept the absurd and irrational. That's what it means. It's bad in principle always. Because
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
because they stupided their way in, they can't reason their way out. So as a dialectician, we don't take the bait. He called him arrogant. Fuck him. Who cares? That's the dialectic. So, see? He wants to engage in a war between good and evil because that's all he knows. The irony is, he is being what he thinks is evil. He is trying to drag the conversation into the unintelligible and irrational by doing gossip. Gossip, personal bullshit, masks, egos. Does Hassan shock his dog? Do you condemn Hamas? Fuck that. Let's address the root principles here. You're arrogant. It's common sense. I'm not talking about common sense. That's unintelligible and irrational. I'm not engaging in gossip. That's unintelligible and irrational. Socrates stays on point, contemplating the intelligible, like God or goodness. If Satan was vanquished in such a way, because his plans lack intelligibility, so even if he was able to participate, he would lose ultimately. If he was vanquished in that way, wouldn't he also come to know that good has overcome evil and that evil itself was annihilated and only good exists? Once the battle's lost, everyone knows it's lost. Can't weasel your way out of that. The evil of Satan moves across the earth, leaving destruction and misery in its wake. Now, that's a callback. He has already learnt what brings destruction and destruction across the land. It's when believers, literalists, gain power. When conservatives or religious or capitalists gain power. Always. Because they're blocked from understanding, they can't solve problems, they think inflicting suffering is good because that's all they can do because they lack understanding. And instead of overcoming the difficulties, they say, oh, I'm never wrong. Listen to any conservative or religious person. I was never wrong. Not one time was I wrong. I was always right. From birth. Because they can't learn and develop through belief. Belief opposes development. It opposes the logos. It's the pathologos. So he's telling us he's in a problem because he's rejected what he's already come to understand. Going back to it. Can what has been thoroughly defeated continue to exist? So he simplifies it. Jesus was triggered, repeats a cliche from his belief system, an empty phrase. He makes it simple. He's gone from even Satan would know only good exists to, hey, if it's been thoroughly defeated, can it continue to exist? Helps the person he's talking to gain more focus. Well, as long as there is a continuous war raging within our soul, then it would be mirroring the cosmic war. So he's more focused in his answer. We can use that. So if evil, says Socrates, is only found in man, in his thoughts and deeds, why not look for the cause there, where it springs up, rather than creating this war between heaven and earth? And Jesus says, well, you seek to end the war within mankind that leaves its source untouched. That you can't, because I think the source is actually the war between God and Satan. Where will evil play itself out if it finds no home in the soul of mankind? Meaning, you've defined evil as the conflict within the thoughts within mankind because of his bad thoughts and deeds. So if there's no bad thoughts and deeds or conflict within the human soul, where's your evidence for evil? There's no home for it anymore. Again, another sabotaging of the argument. Well, sometimes called a thought terminating cliche. Some people don't like that. I don't know. I wonder why. Heard someone say they didn't like that. Let's call it instead a counter-attack. How about that? A counter-attack. The truth is silent before man's existence. So again, a phrase from his belief. The sorts of things his priest and his parent or his imam or his rabbi told him. When Jesus asked the question, they said, hey, God works in mysterious ways. The truth is silent. You can't understand man's problems. How dare you? Socrates says, Socrates answers Jesus in the way that maybe Socrates had to go back and answer his parents and earliest teachers in philosophical midwifery, either in reality or if they've passed away in role-playing, in a way he wasn't able to. So this is an example of what we come to when we play the game. Someone said something to us to shut us up, like Jesus is trying to use now. He's in his NPC script. He's imitating his parents. God works in mysterious ways, or his own version, his family version, the truth is silent before the mysteries of man's existence. This is the sort of person we become when we complete philosophical midwifery. We can answer that. Because Socrates said, I grew up with those sorts of people. Hey, welcome, Nitro.
I would scoop the moon in a cup for you.
We scooped the moon in a cup for you, turning up today. So Socrates answers him. Hey, you know what? Our mysteries, philosophy, dialectic, logos, reveal truth. Yours conceal it with piety. Boom. Bam. He was smoked. He was wasted.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know. You don't know, now you know, Jesus.
I'm joy maxing, okay? And if I aura mog you because I'm joy maxing so hard, that just sounds like your cortisol levels are spiking for no reason.
Socrates just mocked the hell out of Jesus. But notice, it's an empty phrase. Oh, the truth is silent before the mysteries. Fuck off. You think you know what truth is, and it's and it can't be applied to man's existence? Is that a true statement? Oh, so you do know truth. Bullshit. We answer these people who silenced our development when we were young after having gone through midwifery in a way that we weren't able to do or didn't do when we were young. This is how you solve problems. The irony being here is the whole reason for Satan existing is Jesus has saying man has problems. He acts irrationally and unintelligibly. That is evil. Therefore, Satan. Therefore, we have to blow up the world so God can finally defeat Satan. Jesus is therefore being evil. according to his definition. Socrates is demonstrating how you actually solve problems, not by blowing up Jesus and what Donald Trump said yesterday on Truth Social, end civilization, bring us back to the Stone Age. No, you answer it. That's the dialectic. The dialectic is questions and answers. I think it was Plato, says Chatter, who said people are born with a... No, not with belief. We're not doing belief. Belief is something we pick up from our family clan for loyalty within that clan. Belief is in opposition to understanding. So Socrates is engaging in understanding. Jesus is trying to stop it with a belief. Hey, my belief is man can't understand the truth. If it's a belief, he can't have learnt it through reason, as the oracle tells us.
No, people don't logic their way into stupid positions. They stupid their way into stupid
Positions. Belief is an imitation. So notice, we were doing understanding to actually solve the mystery of man's existence. We were doing it. Jesus came along to stop it with a belief. He is in his problem. He is imitating the same lie his parents played on him. We overcome the nature of man's irrational, unintelligible problems or evil, not by blowing him up, as believers do because they can't understand, because they're blocked from understanding, but by using understanding to actually address the source of man's problems, belief. Socrates says, our mysteries, understanding, philosophy, dialectic, reveal truth. Yours conceal it with piety or belief. Do you see the difference? I don't know what a multi-person stream is. Do you notice the difference? You're not born with a belief. You learn it in childhood to prevent your development of understanding. Belief, bad. Understanding, good. Belief, the cause of human problems. Understanding, its solution. We're using understanding currently to see that you cannot have a God that is fighting against Satan. What other philosophers? If you know of some, I'd be happy to talk to them. I don't see many philosophers out there. Do you see what I'm saying? We're using understanding to remove the false belief in a God that's at war with Satan. Can't exist in principle. We're defeating Satan equally. Why? Through understanding. Jesus' response, because he holds those beliefs that he didn't learn through reasoning, he learned through belief, the appearance of his parents appearing as Noah's. He is trying to sabotage the conversation with thought-terminating phrases or counterattack phrases. He is, I bet you $1,000, his mother, Mary, I suppose, used this same line on him. Or maybe his dad, Joseph. Having got Socrates, I bet, had something similar played on him because he grew up in a similar culture. Socrates, having gone through philosophical midwifery to address the source of his blocks to the logos, blocks to understanding, is therefore able to function in this kind of dialectic, the highest kind. And we are doing it now because we're learning it too. So we are becoming like the highest kind of philosopher or dialectician. Which you can only do if you address your blocks that tells you, I can't do it, do something else. Let's do gossip. Let's do tangents. You have to address those things. He is showing us this is the work of his midwifery. When someone comes along that's just like Socrates' mum and throws this bullshit at him, God works in mysterious ways. The truth is silenced before the mysteries of man's existence. He can answer them. He's not believing them anymore. He's done midwifery. He's demonstrating what it means to be free of evil, not evil, ignorance. So this makes sense of what we were confused about. He's saying, hang on a second. What's this stuff about if Satan is vanquished? Does that means that evil is annihilated, right? And only good remains. What the heck is he talking about? That's not related to what we were talking about. We were doing a dialectic on whether Satan can exist. Let's get this dialectic down. As we said, number one, evil is defined by unintelligible or irrational, opposed to the second or third hypothesis, opposed to ousia, which is the contemplation of the intelligible, or logos or dialectic, which is the rational. So evil is unintelligible or rational. Planning towards a goal requires reason or intelligible. Satan is the personification of evil. Therefore, Satan can't plan towards a goal. For war, you have to plan towards a goal. Marshal your troops, prepare for the war. Therefore, Satan can't participate in war. So 1, evil is unintelligible, so evil can't do planning. 3, Satan equals 1. Therefore, because Satan is evil, therefore Satan can't plan for war. That was the conclusion that we came to. 1, evil is not 2, planning. 3, Satan is evil. Therefore, again, the axiom, A equals B, C equals B. Therefore, C also equals A. Therefore, Satan also means can't plan. Keeping going. 5, war requires planning. So 5 equals 2. Didn't we say Satan is not 2? Therefore, Satan, 3, cannot be at war. Which is our conclusion, point 6. So 6 stages. Memorize it. Practice it with your friends. Now we've defeated God and Satan. We've defeated the false God that sits on the throne of so many people who are acting in an unjust way. So given that, what's all this stuff about if Satan was vanquished, only good remains? Because what has thoroughly been defeated can't continue to exist. Hey, if the conflict man has is what you're taking as the evidence of evil, what's the actual, for those of us who've been reading the book, what's the actual cause of conflict? The pathologos belief blocks to the logos or understanding. What blocks your participation in the meaning of life? What blocks your participation in the dialectic? That's the conflict you have. Everyone has. Our purpose, our function, our highest functioning as kids until we were blocked was the dialectic. Something came up and blocked it. Therefore, if you overcome the conflict, which is our pathologos opposition to logos, our belief opposition to understanding, if you overcome that, then only logos remains. Why the hell is he talking about that now? This line. He's giving us what we need to make sense of this move. We've been doing the logos, we've been doing the dialectic. We've come to a conclusion that the Abrahamic God can't exist, that Satan can't exist, where's the conflict? Jesus saying, you can't understand the truth of man's existence. That's the conflict. We were doing well up until that point. We were solving the majority of human problems on the planet up until this point. We were saving the majority of human souls from this suffering, both in this lifetime and beyond, until this point. This is the conflict. Belief. There was no reasoning to this. There wasn't steps of reasoning that they came to step by step together to come to the conclusion rationally, intelligibly, together, that you can't know the nature of the truth of man's existence. He just pulled this out of his ass. Literally. Not literally, but it came out of the blue.
Oh my fuck.
Right?
She's a moron. She's a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
I coined that.
Who's a BHI?
That's insane. Like, you need help. There's no help, actually. You need a straitjacket.
You need a straitjacket if you call Oracle BHI. A bonked on the head individual. What was Socrates' response to the conflict that plagues man's soul that Jesus just demonstrated? Therefore, by the way, to a sophisticated person who's been doing midwifery in the dialectic for a while, you can have fun with that. Hey, by the way, did you just notice that you blocked the logos with a certain belief? Hey, is it similar to the belief that we've been examining in our many midwife talks and our many dream analysis talks? Oh, by the way, didn't you say that evil was that which was irrational and unintelligible? Is that belief rational? And Jesus will say, you know what? No, it isn't. I've done a lot of work on midwifery and dream talks. I know it's irrational. That's what the work comes to see. And it's not true. It's unintelligible. It's just a false belief that my mum kept saying to me whenever I would challenge her bullshit. Oh, isn't it ironic? That's what you believe is evil? And the Logos was showing that evil doesn't exist? The only time it existed in this conversation was when you repeating this cliche? So who was being evil? And Jesus would say, oh, that's amazing. The symmetry is so beautiful. I thought you were evil by challenging my beliefs, by dismissing the cause of human problems. But I was the one being evil by insisting on the existence of evil. See? Self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, Jesus hasn't had that level of midwifery yet, which leads me to think that maybe the author is saying, you can make the sequel to this book, Jesus and Socrates, a midwife talk in heaven. Or you could play it a different way. If Jesus was sophisticated enough in midwifery with the dialectic and dream analysis, you could say, hey, by the way, what gives Satan his existence? Oh, the conflict within man's soul. And we said once there's no home for evil to exist, then we've defeated Satan. Because the only thing pointing to the existence of Satan is the conflict within man's soul. You call that evil, and therefore it has to have a source, the evil one. Where did we have conflict here? Because we were going step by step and we were doing understanding, coming to conclusions that were providential or helpful. Where was the conflict? Oh, when I introduced my family belief. Now, again, if he is sophisticated, if he's done this enough, if he's reflected on his problems enough to recognize this kind of phrase, this kind of cliche, this kind of counterattack, then he will recognize it's a belief Currently, he just thinks it's a true fact. Obviously, it's a belief. He's just pulled it out of thin air. So therefore, using your own worldview of the seventh hypothesis, if you were the one introducing the conflict, you were being, and Jesus would go, oh, I was being evil. Oh, by the way, what was the source of that evil or conflict? It was my mummy's belief that she kept saying to me that God works in mysterious ways, or truth is silent before the man's existence, or you can't know truth. Oh. By the way, are we addressing that through midwifery? Isn't it ironic that what you called evil was just a family clan belief? And its source wasn't Satan, it was the image of your parent as knowing. Therefore, we've defeated Satan because there's no need to invent the idea of Satan, because as Socrates says, we addressed it at its source. Hang on a second, what did he say? Yeah, we addressed the cause where it sprung up. So then again, if he's mature, you can have fun with this. It's fun.
Personality maxing requires you to look. No, you're not.
Wait.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave.
You are crossing into new boundaries.
See, we're crossing into new boundaries. We're seeing the fun.
It makes sense.
I'm cute. Like,
It's awesome and it's gangster.
This is awesome and gangster. So we could have fun with it. Hey, by the way, so what did you just say Satan was? Oh, he's the source of the conflict within man's soul. Oh, and the conflict came up, like when was the logos or dialectic, which is our purpose, blocked? When I introduced my pathologos belief. What was the source of that? Well, I still believe my mummy and daddy because I haven't completed my work with midwifery. I still think my mummy and daddy are knowing, loving, beautiful, just. As all human children learn from childhood. That's what Plato says, Nitro. Plato didn't say we're born with beliefs, we picked them up from childhood. That's where we learn the images in the cave analogy. They keep us chained to our ignorance in the inside of the cave of shadows. So we can have fun. Hey, so what does that make your image of mum? That makes my mum Satan. Oh, so Satan's your mum. Wow. Now, he's not literally Satan. The theory that Satan exists as the cause of human conflict applied to reality would mean, by his definition, his mum is Satan. Because that's the actual cause of the conflict. So that's the fun that you can have. And if, again, we've been talking about finding someone with a good heart and good head who also wants to remove their problems and reach their excellence and overcome their injustice and reach their justice both in this lifetime and beyond. If that's the kind of relationship you have, the ideal relationship, then you can have fun with this all the time. Because life, every moment, is unfolding this level of beauty and symmetry and fun and humor and irony that's there to be participated in if you have someone to talk to about that. For me, it's you guys here. And the more you see, the more insights you gain, the quicker you move quickly like a thief, like a rogue class, and not a clumbering paladin class. The other side of that is all this stuff about, hey, if it's been defeated, then it's defeated for good. What does that mean? Oh, if Socrates has addressed his own parents who dropped this bullshit on him, it might not be the exact same phrase, truth is silent before the mysteries of man. It might be God works in mysterious ways, or you're too stupid to understand the nature of your problems, kid, or my house and my rules, I'm the smart one, you're a dumb idiot, or you're just a girl, you're a dumb broad,
Die mad about it, bitch.
and you should die mad about it.
Drop the attitude, man.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Any of those things. If Socrates has done this work, and he has in his lifetime, and he's in heaven now, he's done this, the same way he was able to answer this nonsense that his parents dropped on him, he is carrying it within his soul so that when somebody else tries to dump this evil on him, he can answer it now. In other words, the conflict is gone. When someone else who acts, that's our life, that's the symmetry. Until you address your problems, you have dreams. Dreams reflecting your problems over and over again until you answer it. And once you've figured it out, all of a sudden you don't have those dreams anymore. It doesn't show up anymore. You've learned it. If it does, it's not interesting. I'm bored with this. Oh yeah, I know where that goes. Garbage. Doesn't help me with my goals. By the way, I have this goal over here. I'm going to contemplate that and do that. You're doing this injustice? Well, it's not real. It's not true. Doesn't hold any image of beauty or justice within my soul. It's boring. I've seen how that script ends. Then you don't have the dream anymore. There are people who have this realization or have this learning period. Sometimes it sucks to go through many dreams of that kind, nightmares like that, or boring or tedious dreams like that. So too in our everyday life, you'll find yourself running into or even dating people who reflect your parental images, family ways of being, because it's tied to your image of real justice and truth, until you can answer it. Socrates is not getting swept up in the bait from the believer, from the conservative capitalist clergy, from the religious person. He answers it. Our mysteries reveal truth, yours conceal it with piety. Or, the way we would understand it, yeah, the Logos reveals truth of man's existence, of everything from self. The only thing that conceals the Logos is the pathologos, or belief. The allegiance to personal belief or family belief or religious belief, that's called piety. So we can unpack it, but Socrates can just drop that wisdom bomb and drop the mic. Our mysteries reveal truth, yours conceal it with piety, meaning he's overcome the conflict. What's the conflict? Pathologos blocks. What remains? Only the good, the Logos. So he's demonstrating it. So that would make sense of this confusion that we had earlier. What is it? If Satan's vanquished, would he come to know that in good overcoming evil, what's the good? The self, the good self. How does it function? The self-logos. In the dialectic or the power of the Logos overcoming evil, not evil, problems, would Satan realize that evil itself was annihilated and only good exists? I suppose. What's that got to do with anything? I'm saying is, what has been thoroughly defeated, can it continue to exist? Well, the answer is no, it can't. But he goes on, well, if you've got a war within your soul still, then it would still exist, mirroring the cosmic war to saying, yes, I agree, but we still have conflict within the soul. Hang on, how about we address the cause of the problems in man's thoughts and deeds where it springs up, rather than going over to Satan? Because you're not addressing the source. But if we did address the conflict where it plays out in the soul of man, would that mean evil couldn't play itself out if it finds no home in the soul of mankind? In other words, evil won't exist if we address the conflict where it springs up in the soul of man. Jesus doesn't say yes, he demonstrates it. He, within the drama, demonstrates a conflict within the soul of Socrates by playing the role of the belief-based block to the logos by saying, give it up, Socrates. You're too stupid. You're a small bean. You're a bad noodle. You can't know the truth of man's existence. And Socrates says, oh yeah, philosophy reveals truth. Your beliefs conceal it with piety. Religious shit's just concealing the truth through belief. So there was a dialectic there. Jesus demonstrated it for us. Because there's no conflict within Socrates' soul, meaning it's been thoroughly defeated. How? Words. Words. Logos. Answering. Up until now, Socrates has been doing the asking questions part of the dialectic. This, right at the end, is very different. Now, we've also... The way he's been asking questions has always been yes and. Right at the end, he goes no. Because Jesus gets into his problem. That's something we have to be aware of. When someone's open, curious, wondering, we take what they give us and we yes and that. When they are like in their closed, I'm the knower. No. And he corrects him. Another thing that's unusual is this is the first time, it seems, he plays the answering role to demonstrate what it means to defeat evil, or having defeated evil, human conflict, with the logos by recognizing it's the pathologos for good. What would that mean? Well, we've been talking about our purpose being the dialectic, and if it's a single purpose that we can be doing at all times. Today we had someone come up, we were talking to someone in chat. We mentioned, hey, you can give up and say, I want to go back to monkey or bee. Or you could choose to do your purpose and overcome those negative states of mind by recognizing their messages. That's the dialectic. To do so requires courage, character, temperance, wisdom, justice. But those aren't some things you have to be ready. They are something you practice by at every moment saying yes to the dialectic. By doing that, you're following the logos. You're practicing courage. You're practicing keeping your cool while you continue to follow the logos. You're practicing the virtues. You're developing and nurturing the courage and character into your soul. Why was I saying that? Whoops. If that's our intended function, if that's what it means to be just, saying yes to the dialectic at all times, we can therefore recognize the cause of conflict is anything that comes up that opposes it. It's not evil, it's belief. What Socrates is showing us is that when we do recognize these kinds of blocks or tangents to the dialectic, we can answer them. There are some we might have difficulty in answering, but that's how we recognize our problems. If we weren't able, and go, I guess you can't know man's problems. I guess you can't solve problems. Oh well, let's throw everything we said into the bin. I'm just a dummy. I'm just a dumb broad.
Fuck.
Oh fuck.
Crap. Junk. Nobody should be watching this crap.
No one should be watching this crap. When we throw away what we've seen in the dialectic or our doing of the dialectic, we can notice a problem. When we are doing that, all we're seeing is that we haven't yet been able to answer it. What Socrates is saying is, because we know that he had a similar kind of false belief growing up, when you do recognize a problem, you can create the ideal condition. This is true justice. This isn't punishing you for not being a perfect dialectician. That's what capitalists and conservatives and clergy do. Oh, you couldn't answer me. Ha ha ha. We're going to keep doing genocide. Because you couldn't answer all our arguments. We had Ben Shapiro here talking 1,000,000 miles a minute and you couldn't answer everything, so we win. Owned you, libs. Fuck off. That's not how you act in a just way. If you can't answer a problem and that functions to block the dialectic, you then create the conditions to answer it. You find someone friendly to reflect on that problem, ideally with the guidance of your dreams, so you can answer that. You'll find it's difficult to answer that because you didn't answer it when you were young. So that's what midwifery is. There is some false belief you're still carrying that prevents you from answering that problem that you can create the ideal conditions of with a dialectician. That's why we pay $60 million for LeBron James to do basketball, but we should pay $60 infinity for a dialectician, because they are the people who can create the ideal conditions for you to be able to answer that by answering the first person who you weren't able to answer it and you took the blame. That's been the source of your conflict, not evil, conflict within your soul your whole life. Under those conditions with a dialectician of midwifery, you become able to answer them. And what Socrates says is, therefore you've defeated evil or Satan. Not eerily evil or Satan, that's Jesus's language. You've defeated the block to the logos and dialectic, whose source was your pathologos beliefs. So all of this stuff is, once it's been defeated forever, only makes sense if you recognize that this is the one time he plays the answering role in the dialectic. He's been asking questions, but when Jesus dumped his belief-based problem, Socrates shows how, hey, I've gone through the work, I can answer it. Not only in the midwife talk, but after you answer it in the midwife talk, you'll find it coming up, just as we talked about with the person with their dreams. It's a very common thing with dreams. Until you can apply your insight and understanding, you'll keep having the problem, but once you do, the problem is gone. There is no problem. As soon as he says this, the conversation continues. He is telling us, if you are in this game, you are able to solve your problems, your conflict, for good, such that when a conflict comes in, like right here, you can answer it. You're not falling for it. You're not doubting your own insight. You're not doubting your purpose of leading the dialectic. You're not buying Jesus's mother's horseshit, which she got from her mother and her mother and her mother all the way back to the cave. All this stuff about when you defeat evil, you also defeat Satan, and when you defeat it for good. That's this. That's Socrates' soul. And that's your soul if you choose the just option and you choose to play the game. If you choose to play the game of dialectic, midwifery, and dream analysis, you do overcome the conflict, you do overcome your sad feelings, chatter, and you overcome them for good. There we have a message sent to us from Socrates. I hope that's useful. I hope that's encouraging. And I hope that was fun to see what it's like to have answered a problem in a way where you will always be able to answer that problem and continue doing your intended function as Socrates has been doing this whole text. That's following the logos through the fun of the dialectic. I hope you had fun today. I did. And I hope to see you in the next one. Remember, find a friend to play this game with and you can see all these fun beauty and symmetry and comedy and irony unfolding symmetrically in this kind of a way. And you can move quickly, like a rogue. Hope to see you in the next one.